Hey everyone, welcome back to another Friday pod with the Prince of Property James, Money Markets Mark, Business Savant Eric, and yours truly, Rafe, the TikTok guy. This episode is as practical as it comes. If you've been using ChatGPT like a polite version of Google, this episode is for you. Most people open an AI tab, type one vague question, get a mediocre answer, and then decide, yeah, this stuff is overhyped, and then they go back into their inbox. The problem isn't the tool, it's how you're using it. So in this episode, we're not going to give you AI theory. We're going to show you exactly where AI fits into your week, how to build one or two simple workflows that buy back multiples of the time that you spent watching this pod. And by the end, you're going to know that 80-20 of which tasks in your calendar are perfect for AI, how to turn them into a reusable super prompt, and how to feed it your existing work so it starts sounding like you on your best day and not like a generic robot. AI is not here to replace your brain, but it's here to replace your typing and your busy work. It's a power tool. You still need to decide where to point it. So grab a notebook, open your AI app if you can, and let's wire this into your day while listening instead of just hearing about it.
All right, guys, I'm going to call this an emergency pod. It's not going to be an emergency for a lot of people, but it's going to be an emergency for most people. And I want to talk about AI. Now, we're not going to talk about open claw and all these things that none of us actually understand yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to preschool, like James said it off camera. We're going to take you to preschool about AI. We're going to teach you the actual basics. And we're not just going to teach you, we're going to teach guys like myself and James, who are probably the ones on the call that don't use AI as in depth as someone like Mark and Raf in their businesses. James is probably a notch, smarter than me in the AI space. But with me, as an example, I'm literally just using ChatGPT at its basics. And we were on a call yesterday, and Mark's like, "What do you mean you're not even using it that way?" And I was like, "You know what? If I'm not using it this way, I think a lot of people will be in the same situation and no one's putting up their hand to actually ask for help." So what I did is I said, "Guys, we thought about what we're going to talk about on this podcast, and we thought, you know what, let's pull back the layers of the onion and let's go from 0 to 1. Not let's not break down open claw. All right. That's like a brain surgeon right now in the AI space. Let's just break down AI and how some of us are using it in our business. So this session, right, is not going to be for everybody because it's literally this is just going to be for AI. But I'm telling you, it is for everybody because we have no choice. So it's either you turn this off and go watch something else, and in time, your job will be taken away, right? Or your business is not going to be as efficient as it should be because you're not listening. And one thing I just want to say, right, is AI won't replace you, but someone who knows how to think with it will. And I want that to sit in for a little bit. That's what Raf sent me on a message. And I think that's very, very important to actually think about. Now, what I want to do is talk about how I use AI in my life. And then I want to get the other boys to ask, to comment on how they're using AI. And then what Raf has done is put a bit of a framework together, and we're going to be sharing some screens and whatnot. So for anyone listening on Apple or Spotify, I highly, highly recommend you also watching YouTube. And what we're going to also do is send some of these prompts and bits and pieces that Raf is actually physically using in his business in real time right now. And you can sign up at www.unemployable.com.au/AI, and we'll send you some of this information that we're talking about. Now, for me, guys, honestly, I've got ChatGPT, and I'm starting to use a little bit of Gemini, and I'm just using it pretty basically. And I'll give you an example. So when I know I've got a podcast coming up, as an example, I know the person, I know the angle that I want to take the podcast. So I talk to the Chat GPT and I explain this is who the person is. I put in some documents about the person. Can you do a bunch of research on this person? And I want to take the angle of this podcast more towards asking deeper questions around the experience rather than just top level numbers. I want to, every single step along the way and get really, really granular, whether that's a property podcast or someone that's actually built a business, saying, I built something from 0 to 100 million. That's fine. But let's break down the 1,000 pieces, right? And let's start somewhere. And I'll put that as an example into ChatGPT. And then it brings back a bunch of different questions to ask, and then I'll go back and say, you know what, it's going to be about, an hour to an hour and a half, and I want to have some framework around it. I want to make sure there's controlled conversation, and then I'll talk to it again, and then it gives me some more information, and then after working with it with about half an hour or some back and forth, I then have a bit of a framework for a pod. I don't do this for all pods. Some pods I'm more comfortable with, and I know a lot more information. But the pods that I'm not as comfortable with, I then do a lot more in-depth analysis through ChatGPT. As an example, if I'm rewriting certain emails, I'll type up my email as an example. I'll then put it into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, I want to be a bit more stern with this email or a bit more direct. What would you change?" These types of things. That's the level that I'm using AI when people are saying, "Do you use ChatGPT? Do you use Gemini?" And a lot of people are going to be sitting here going, "That's exactly like what I'm doing." And a lot of people are going to be like, "Eric, I thought you were a lot smarter than that." So, what I want to know is, let's start with James because he's probably the second least experienced in this um, area. If you call me 0, James is probably, 1. And then obviously Mark and Raf are using it at different levels. So James, how are you using it? And then what we're going to do is ask Mark and Raf how they're using it. And then Raf's going to start breaking down a fair bit of
Mhm.
stuff around this AI, but bringing it back to basics here, guys.
Yeah, fair play. I think, Eric, you missed one major point you use it for, and that's writing love letters and romantic things on Valentine's Day to get you over the shit, because you are fairly, limited with your vocabulary and illiteracy. So just want to throw it out there. I don't use it for that. That is like -1 if you're in my book, and there's no originality at all. But all jokes aside, pretty much similar to what Eric's doing. I'll also use it to for like contracts, agreements, to decipher it, and pull out major pinch points in it that it recommends, that could be needed further negotiation. I also ask it to be brutal as fuck, and not agree with everything I say. GPT's algorithm, from what I understand, is built on agreements. And you can go into the back end settings and say, there's a prompt which should be brutal, be object, you get the point. Argue with me a little to make sure I've got an understanding of the point. And your contracts, like LVRs, mathematical stuff that I want to break down real quick. I'm just going for a bit of a whiz through. Um,
He's
yeah,
actually looking at his chat GPT to get the answers that he's talking about now, guys.
yeah. Well, and that's because I've just been speaking. I've just been speaking
Talk
into it.
dirty
I've
to
not
me.
been
Argue
speaking,
with me.
and it's spitting. Treat me like a little bitch. No, and
Treat me
so
like a bitch.
look, yeah, yeah. So look, to that end, but then I ask it to, you know, I haven't really put my foot in the arena of using any agent yet or custom GPTs. I've gone and had a look through it, but it's one of those things. It's like, I think that's why this session is going to be important, is because you just got to start to, move and use it a lot more actively, but a lot more intelligently. And I think the old analogy that's flying around the internet is shit in, shit out. So you've got to put a bit more thought into what you're trying to use it for. And again, without going down the agent model, where it's actually going to start executing things on your behalf, I probably use it more so if you're going to put a ribbon around it as a search engine, and then super educated search engine, a tutor, and a bit of a mentor. So that's probably where I'm at.
Before we go to Mark, I'm wondering, like James and Eric, like why the urgency of diving into getting into AI 0 to 1 now? Like, why do you feel like, oh, this is something that not only you guys need to do, but everyone who's listening? Like, why is it that we're doing this now? Like, from your perspective, I'm curious.
For me personally, it's you know, because you're here, and you're going at it, and the productivity, output, and learning to compress what was formerly could be quite a chewy conversation into minutes. So I'll also go to another application I forgot to mention there. I go to tactic.ai and I'll grab a YouTube clip. Now, I understand the importance. We've had this discussion before on the pod about actually absorbing the whole content for an hour and a half of someone that that you're interested in, because you miss the nuances of it in their expression and all the other bits. But if it's something just in a more practical sense, I'll go and rip a YouTube video, download the transcript, upload it straight in the GPT and go summarize these points, and I'll start pulling apart what I'm working on using the brain of Alex Hormozy, for example. How would Alex Hormozy handle this? Because I've uploaded a YouTube video from him. So I'm starting to borrow his brain. And that's where the whole agent piece comes into it, but at a very, very, very basic level.
It's happening. We're running a 2-day property development event at the Luxury Mondrian Hotel in Burleigh Heads here on the Gold Coast, and we want you there. Because if property development is even on your radar, this will save you years of guessing. Over 2 days, you'll see how deals are actually found, how people fund them without having to be rich, and how projects go from the idea to actually being built. You'll hear from people doing it right now, with special guest Michael Matusik, Australia's leading property analyst and commentator on what the market is actually doing right now. Funding specialist showing you how money actually flows. You'll leave knowing what your next move should be. Check the link below, grab your early bird tickets now, and let's start developing. I'm thinking of competition, right? Like in whatever we're doing, whether it's business, whether it's podcasting, whether it's investing, right? It's getting more and more competitive, right? We're all fighting for the same eyeballs. And if you start falling behind, right, you're going to have major issues. And I'm noticing more and more now with me, I haven't put enough time and effort in the actual research phase of AI, and not so much researching, but like Mark said yesterday on a call, actually doing it, studying it, right? Actually going and downloading, Claude and playing with it. And what does it do? Why is it better than Gemini for this? Or, all these different types of things. So not just talking about it and going, oh yeah, I understand it, but actually getting your hands dirty. And what really woke me up is OpenClaw. Like this thing's already changed names 5 times in a week. That's how quick this thing's changing. Right? It's moving so fast. And when I started getting an understanding of this, and after our conversation that we had yesterday, it was kind of a oh shit moment going, I need to really, really start understanding this, especially for what we're doing in the podcast space, in the coaching space, right? There's so many elements that we can be using this. And I know that there's someone out there, right, that will be looking in what we're doing in certain parts of our businesses going, why the hell are you still doing that? And what I don't want to be is the dinosaur that I feel like I am right now in the AI space. I don't want to be that dinosaur. I want to adapt. I want to be efficient. I want to be nimble. And I want to actually understand it enough to be dangerous, but understand it enough that when I go and hire experts in the future to come and help, they can't just bullshit me through it.
Fair. That makes sense.
I think
Mark,
that's
how are you using it, mate, at the moment?
that's the important point, Eric. The important point is that it doesn't matter. For me, I don't care what industry you're in. I mean, sure, there's some trades that maybe don't need it and whatever, but let's talk about, white collar, or let's talk about any type of industry where you're using something electronic, or there's some kind of, digital input. The reality is, no matter what industry you're in within this services based sector or whatever, someone out there is using it to supercharge their ability to think, and to not as a productivity hack, not as a tool to kind of answer their emails, etc., but someone is using it to think on steroids, right? And whether that be a podcaster, whether that be an e-commerce agent, whether that be a property developer, a trader, you go through all these industries, and someone out there is using it to help them think, to help them um, increase their level of output. See, as humans, one of the issues that we have is that we have a very, very low bandwidth. We can only read so many pages at once. We can only write so many pages at once. The real power with these, with AI and these LLMs, is their ability to generate information and context and probability, etc., en masse. But that's all said with an important caveat. And the context that you put into these models is super important. Where I found out, maybe through a bit of trial and error, and obviously reading, is that if you just ask it a question, it can hallucinate. Because what context is it answering that question based on? Is it answering that question based on your personal usage context? Is it answering it based on who it knows you are and an answer that it's going to please you? Is it answering it based on some sort of personal bias that's been programmed into it? And once you start using all four of the models, I'm using Claude, I'm using Gemini, I'm using Grok, I'm using ChatGPT, much less today. You realize that they all answer the same question very differently and sometimes give completely conflicting answers, right? So what I'm learning is the most important thing when using these models is context, and the most important context is domain specific knowledge, right? So it's not like there's two ways that you can use it, in my opinion. You can use it to become Superman in your domain that you have expertise in, and to have an agent or something running 24/7 doing the processes that you would do slowly manually, and you have it just doing it on repeat, then feeding you reports, right? So it's solving the bandwidth problem. Or you can use it the Socrates way, where you can prompt it to continue to ask you questions and teach you to become a domain expert somewhere, right? And then you can verify those things with other models, etc. So that's the framework I'd like to kind of start with. That I think people should be looking at one or two things: either using your industry experience to increase your bandwidth and your ability to output, or you should be using it to try and make you an expert or to give you domain knowledge in a specific field that you're interested in.
Uh,
So, yeah. Any
Go
questions on that?
I want to no, I want to dig right back into it. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. And I hand it over to Raf because I really want to start adding a lot of value to the listeners. But I want to leave it with the one thing. I had a very aha moment yesterday. And how long has Siri been around? Like, hey Siri, and you ask it a question. How long you think?
Like 12 years.
Just ask GPT and you'll know, mate. We'll start your research for you.
Right, we'll call it 12 years, right? Now, I was in the car yesterday, and my father-in-law was in the car, and he's in the back seat. As I'm driving, I'm going, "Hey Siri, message James Denham." Right? And right, okay, I want to say this, this, and this, and that, and that, and that. Okay, and then it repeats it. Would you like to send it? Send it. I look back at my father-in-law, who's 69, and he literally shook his head in awe and put his head against the back of the seat rest, like, holy shit. And I looked at, and I seen that, and I had a moment of going, that could be me.
I'm
Right.
shaking
If I
my
don't get-
head in I'm shaking my head in awe that you used Siri and it didn't make a mistake with the voice to text.
No, it was actually all right. But
It could-
what I did
terrible.
want to be, it is
Very
terrible. What I
sad.
did, right? I don't want to be, he doesn't need to know that. It's not going to change his life, but I need to start understanding this. And I don't want to be the dinosaur, right? That within 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, right? Because it's not going to be 12 years. Trust me, right? It's going to be a lot sooner than that. And I don't want to be behind the 8 ball. So with that said, Raf, where do you want to take it?
But I kind of just want to create the frame for anyone who's listening, because this pod is as practical as they come. The reason why I wanted to have this like presented in this way is because we had that conversation with Eric and the boys, and we were talking about all this agentic cool stuff that you can do, which is great. But I realized that not everyone is at 0 to 1 yet from the AI, like even just using it properly. And so what I wanted to do in this session is just like, okay, you may be using AI as a fancy like search engine right now, or like a fancy Google. But what I want to do is give you the tools so that you can use it from 0 to 1 and actually get the output that's like leverage for you in your life. It could be for your business, could be for trading like Mark is using it. It could be literally just for organizing your life and your calendar. Whatever it is that gives you leverage in your life, we want to get you there by the end of this pod. I promise you, you're going to get there. And if you just implement these things, and for one-time work is going to buy you back hours of your time. Like the hour you spend watching this is going to be paid back in multiples by the end of this if you just implement what I'm talking about. And that's really the goal. And what I wanted to do was like dive in and literally, if you're listening to this, just be honest with yourself. If you haven't used it at all, that's totally cool. That's going to be helpful for you. If you started to use it, that's awesome. And even if you're consistently using AI and ChatGPT or LLMs, this frameworks I'm going to be sharing with you right now is going to be a force multiplier for what you're actually doing. And that's really the goal. And I mean, whenever you boys are ready, I want to like share my screen and dive straight into it if that's cool with you.
Yeah, and if you go into the dark deep AI chats, I'll bring you up like LLMs. There's going to be people out there that don't know what that actually means. So
Yeah.
we'll ask very stupid questions, in my opinion, because I won't know some of them.
There's no such thing as a stupid question. The fact that you're listening to this or still listening to this pod or wanting to learn is just that you want to have leverage, just like other people have the opportunity to. And the thing that's going to um, create that gap over time in your business, in your trading, or in your lifestyle amongst others of your peers is how you're using this technology to apply to your goal, whatever it might be, right? And so
Yep.
at any point, boys, you want to double click on anything, just yell at and we just dive into it.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Share screen.
All right, sick. Let's do it.
So again, anyone on Spotify or Apple Podcast, if you want to see what Raf's actually presenting, so it makes a little bit more sense, go onto our YouTube channel and subscribe while you're there if you're not.
Or unemployable.com. Is it .au/AI?
AI, yeah.
Yeah,
So if you register there, then we
shorthand.
can send you for the prompts and bits and pieces that he's prepared.
Brilliant. Guys, also let us know if you like this kind of more deep dive workshop style. I know it's a little bit different, but this is the easiest way I thought to get the information into your heads. So without further ado, let me dive in, guys. So the goal of this session, regardless of where you are, if you've literally been afraid to go into the chat GPTs, the LLMs and using AI, or you've been using it regularly and you want extra leverage, or you know how to use it and you're using it effectively, you want to be able to get even further leverage. The frameworks that I'm going to be sharing right now are going to be able to help you get that within your business, whether your investment, or even just helping you organize your day and your life a little bit better. So AI 0 to 1 from the Friday pod, Unemployable boys. Let's dive in. All right. Best thing I can do for you today is give you back your time and be more confident with using this tech to scale your business, your investments, and your projects. That's the goal. And the first reframe that I want you to put in your head is that AI is a power tool. Like, for example, when I was younger, my dad would ask me to give him a Phillips head screwdriver, but I gave him a flathead. I need to know the difference of what tool to use. And after that tool, the power tool is just leverage on how fast you can turn or drill in that screw or take out that screw. That's how I want you to think about AI. You need to still decide where to point it and where to use it. But the big question is, like, you might be starting at like step one. So I want to give you the 80-20 of that. Like, what is an LLM? We get that question a lot. It's just a large language model. I want you to think about an LLM as like a really fast reader or writer. It's been trained on like ridiculous amounts of text. It's very good at predicting what word should go next. That's really what it is. It's a predictive model. And because it's been trained on so many things, the entire internet, all this text, it's really good at text work. It's really good at structured thinking, but it's not magic. It can 10x your output. And that's how I want you to think about LLMs. That's different to agents, but the LLMs underpin everything. Does that make sense, boys?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. So really quickly, some quick AI hygiene. So you might be using Claude, like Mark was mentioning before, Gemini or ChatGPT. They're all very similar. All the major models kind of look the same. But as a quick hygiene, when you're using your LLMs, just make sure you don't just open a random chat. You just want to create a new project. This project you want to think about is a task or is an overarching strategy that you want to run. So for example, for me, I'll have like an investing one. I've got a YouTube analyzer. I've got a TikTok analyzer. I've got like a business strategist. I have a business coach that I call Tony, like Tony Robbins. And then he helps me in that specific project in those chats, and that's some of the ways that I'm using these projects.
So Raf, when you're opening up these projects, so on for instance, ChatGPT, you go up on the left-hand side, right, with the little plus sign, add a project. So when you go business coach as an example, anytime you have a business question, do you always go back to that exact same chat? So it just builds on all the questions that you've already asked, and it starts building this kind of avatar, I guess.
Instead of going back to the same chat, I go back to the same project because inside the
Project,
project we
sorry.
have this.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I go straight back to the same project and then use that every single time because it starts learning and understanding more and more of what I do.
Okay. So
Can I ask you?
yep.
So
Go ahead.
that's a good question. With projects, I've got mine set up the same as well. There's about 6 or 7 projects in there. Now, whilst you've got that information that's specific to that project, because the LLMs and they've got memory and whatnot, if you just go like for a quick random chat for search, it will still draw in that information into that chat. But so in other words, it's not completely ring fenced just because it's in a project. It's just compiled in that project, correct?
Yeah, and it can't be shared. So anything that you want to share, you can't have any files or any chats that you've put into your project shared anywhere else, but the context can be used across general chats. but the output is different. And that's kind of the important part about projects, because you want to think about a project as like a function of the business or an activity that you want to take. And then the instructions in there is the role you want the LLM to play, like an advisor, a coach, a strategist, whatever you want. You maybe want, Macro Mark to be your instructor and just like train it what Macro Mark would speak like in response. And then in that project, in those chats, it's going to be responding to you just like that. And then the files are the context. This is needed in all chat responses. So then it pulls that every single time you're going to be responding to it. So that way you don't have to remind it, hey, by the way, remember this thing, remember that thing. It remembers it in the context because it's inside of the project. You know what I mean?
Understand.
Awesome.
Yep,
So
just to use in a practical application, my partner was doing a course. I'm not going to say which one it was. It was to do with in the health and medical sector. I did exactly that. I downloaded all the course information, uploaded the whole lot in there. It was broken into 3 different modules, and knows to me she got 100% in all of the course, and she was the only one in a class that did, because she could ask it specific questions, and it came back with the exact answer based on the exact question that was asked by the course. So it's faultless in that. She still had to remember it and go and sit the live exam, but as a study mentor or a tutor, it's infallible because it's got the exact information that you're after.
Isn't that called cheating?
Well, it's called cheat GPT, I suppose. Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's working smart instead of hard. I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because, like, math isn't my strongest suit, and I'm like, well, I can't have math not be my strongest suit anymore. I can't use that as an excuse. So I literally created a project where I wanted to understand just the basic levers of like supply and demand, as well as like conversion rate optimization and funnel math. And so I created a project where it teaches me these concepts and it quizzes me. And sometimes it tries to give me the answer straight away. I'm like, no, I need 5 more questions. Okay, sweet. Tell me where I can improve here. Tell me where I can improve here. Do not tell me the answer. And I just spent like 3 hours to get this concept down. And now it's like in my brain. And that kind of leverage, that custom help for something that I have a gap in, just by creating this own project, it's just the amount of leverage. Now I don't have to think about that. Like it's in my brain now because I was taught that, and that's how you can use this stuff.
That's the Socrates model. That's the using it to train you and to have domain specific or specialized knowledge, right?
100%. Yeah, and it's so crazy. If you use it as an answer box, then you only ever get the answer. It's like empty calories if you're only using it for that. So if you use it to train your own OS, like I said this yesterday on the call, the AI works on you as much as you work on it. If it structures your thinking and improves your quality of thinking, that means your input will be better, which means the output will be better, and it'll be like a virtuous cycle.
Well, Stanford, not to pour water on the party, right? Because I'm a huge user and I love these models. But Stanford just released a report basically saying that these LLMs know enough to sound convincing, but not enough to be reliable, right? Like time after time after time, when they're put to the test, they're actually found to be unreliable, right? So that context really does matter, and the cross-checking and the domain specialized experience really matters, because then you don't necessarily know if it's spitting out the wrong thing.
Exactly right.
Right, so
Context is key, and
Yeah.
you have to have judgment, right? You have to have, like, to Mark's point, like, you need to know. Like, for example, if it's spitting out random trading advice and Mark's in the arena, he can very quickly see, okay, like, that doesn't make any sense, or, it's hallucinating here. But as a novice in trading, like myself, I'm just, like, dollar cost averaging throughout things. I don't have any of the skills that Mark does. For me, it sounds like a genius. Like, I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect. I'll just follow that." So it's very important to give it the right context and then develop that domain expertise to know.
Yep, 100%.
Brilliant. Okay. What I want to share with you guys is just 5 operating principles. Just even in knowing this is really going to help you with any AI that you're using. The first thing you want to think about is that AI is a thinking partner. It's not an answer machine. Like Google helps you find pages, which is great. AI helps you think, plan, write, and iterate. It amplifies your existing skill, to Mark's point just then, and clarity or lack of it, in my case. Like if I'm going to I'm talking about trading, I don't have any clarity. I'm just like, okay, that makes sense. But if I use ChatGPT and take actions based on that, it's just going to amplify my lack of clarity. So it's super important. So just keep that in mind. Context is everything. Number two is trash in and trash out. Your prompts are the problem. And by the end of the session, we're going to give you a universal custom prompt that you can just apply to whatever you need so that your output can be way better. Like if you're giving one-line prompts, you're basically showing one-line thinking. So good output is context, and I'll show you how you can apply that, constraints, which is your prompt, and then examples of what's actually working. Like for example, with what Eric was saying in preparing for podcast guests and coming up with questions, he could literally say, okay, this is the context of this person. This is literally a transcript of one of the pods that I've either watched or done myself that I liked the flow. And these are the type of questions that I ask. So now that those are the examples that it's pulling from. And then these are all the historical podcasts that this guest has gone on before. I want you to highlight the ones where they were most engaged. That's context, constraints, and examples. So your output is going to be way better before you ask the question of preparing for it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just those little things you're not outsourcing your thinking, you're outsourcing basically typing. If you can collate all this stuff before you prompt, the output is just going to be not just 1 times, 2 times, 3 times better. It's 10x, 15x better just by 2 minutes of work buys you back 20 minutes of your time. That's how I want you to think about it. And so it's not a magic box, but something that you can get way more leverage on. A few other things here. I want to give you a quick example of a bad prompt versus a good prompt. So a bad prompt is write me a marketing plan for my business. A better prompt is, like I mentioned before, is business description, target, what your offer is, your goal, your time frame, your format. Collating all that, guess what? That's changing how you think because it structures your own thinking. Just by having to put that together means that your quality of thinking is going to be improved over time the more you use it. Like if you're using a prompt, I want you to think about it as your SOP. This is your standard operating procedure. If your prompt is one line, it doesn't give the AI SOP or process to follow. If your prompt is detailed, then it knows what you want and what to give it. And so your output is just going to be so much better. And by the end of this, I'm going to share some good prompts.
A great analogy to write me a marketing plan for my business would be asking a travel agent to book and plan your whole holiday without giving them a budget or which continent you wanted to go to.
Yeah. Or what date.
That's literally the range of options that you can get back.
Bang on. That's exactly right. And
hence the hallucination and the frustration with it. And you keep asking the same question and it keeps giving me the same shit and it turns into a loop and you delete it, start again, get the shit to walk away. And until you, again, trash in, trash out.
Exactly right. And makes such a huge difference. And you'd be surprised. It'll feel like you have a superpower if you just implement these principles. And I'm going to share very practically how to do this in a second, but a couple more principles that I want you to get in your head. AI Hygiene 101, new chat is a new job. So let's say I have a project. I've got like a senior business advisor as an example. That's my project. Inside that, I might have a chat that's going to be about, landing page copy, or it could be about a negotiation of some sort of thing that I want to acquire, or it could be specifically about a lead magnet. Each of those are different chats, not one super long chat, because what happens over time is each chat's going to deprecate. It will start forgetting regardless how much context you give it. So just a new chat, a new topic. If you want to iterate, stay in the same threads, stay in the same chat. Like I think Mark was telling us yesterday, in one of his chats, it took him 2 days to get an output or a very complex prompt for something that he's doing on the trading and investing side. But if he changed chat, then you'd have to start again. In that instance, it makes sense to stay in the thread, but you want to treat it as a collaborator, not like a magic 8-ball. That's really how you think about it.
Like even that is an example, right? Like I'm misusing it just based on that, right? Like I'm setting up new chats and bits and pieces, but sometimes I get lost, and next thing you know, I'm talking to this thing, and then because my mind, I'm thinking about this, then all of a sudden this pops in or this pops in, and it has nothing to do with that original chat. But I'm not sitting there every single time going, all right, okay, this is right. New chat, new paragraph. All right. And that's a perfect example, right? And I'm sure all of us probably fall into this trap.
One more quick tip as well, because I'm like sometimes get to the other end of the spectrum where I've been in this chat for so long that for some reason maybe there's too much in it and the model starts to hallucinate. That's when I take I either get it to do some deep research and summarize the chat so I can take all the most important parts to a new chat, or I get it to create a PDF for me so I can take all the most important parts, or I'll take the prompt that I've built and I'll take it to a new chat and I'll start again. Sometimes it is good to give it a hard reset and go into a new window and start again with where you've gotten to.
Yeah. I'm loving this because, to be honest with you guys, all this AI talk out there, OpenClaw, LLMs, all these things. I've never seen a video of just the basics like this. You know what I mean? Like, how do you have any chance of using it properly if you're not actually organizing it properly? Like, it's like Google Drive, right? Google Drive's amazing when you know how to use it and you know how to actually organize it. But if not, it'll be a mess.
100%. And if you find that typing takes a long time, like for me, for example, sometimes I'm just walking, I need to create a new chat. I'll just use the voice feature and I'll just like speak out what I'm doing. Like there's this prompt that I use every morning when I'm on the treadmill, and it's a 5-minute prompt. And I talk about, hey, these are the things that are top of mind. I have a 90-minute block. I want you to label my tasks 5 minutes, 30 minutes, or 90 minutes in total. Things that are involving somebody else with like a message or an email, those are 5-minute tasks. I'm going to now riff out all the tasks that are on my mind right now. And I would just want you to break it down into 5 30-minute, 90-minute chunks and give me what my first 90 minutes are when I get back from the gym. Every morning, I'm just doing that. And so I know what my first 90 minutes are and my brain is clean. Just that, just like super leverage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm fucking writing it in my notebook, and then I'm putting it in the calendar, and then I'm misusing it. Like, this is the thing, right? Like, it's just thinking about it differently. It's thinking
Yeah.
deeply. And unfortunately, us as humans don't think that deeply, right? And it's little ideas like that you can listen to Raf say it, but documenting that and going, how powerful would that be for someone that hasn't done it before? And how much time would you actually save?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so much.
it
And the thing
comes
is
it
to
comes
do
back to the
this.
bandwidth problem, Eric. Like, I know you personally, mates with you,
Yeah.
and I know that that's not true. You not thinking deeply isn't true. I know you think really deeply, long and hard about everything, but you only have limited bandwidth to take
Correct.
those thoughts, whereas these models are like turning that screwdriver of thinking into a drill and allowing you to smash forward with those thoughts. So again, it's all
And a further layer to that also is like a lot of people deal with one business or one narrative is when you've got 4 or 5 businesses all on the fly that are non-correlated and they're all got their own
Yes.
independent set of problems. And that's what I do as well, is that I need to jot them down on paper, think about them first and go, right, go to a project or a chat. This is about this business. This is the deep thinking or the short list of thinking that I need to go deeper on, prioritize that and then go deep on that. But when you've got like, you might have MX, you might have a property, you might have a podcast or whatever, they're completely non-correlated. So spewing all that out in one go at a deep level won't happen. I mean, you've
Correct.
got to silo it.
Yeah. I think it's important to remember, like, this is not a prerequisite for success in business. I mean, it's not at all. It's just what got us here as like entrepreneurs is not what's going to get us there just because of the power of this technology. Because if you're not going to use it, somebody else is going to be using it. So if you have a business and it's doing great, you're in an amazing situation because you have all this context to provide. Now it's just, and you have all that domain expertise, like Mark was saying. So this is your edge right now. And so if you just apply the things that we're about to share right now and into your own processes, now you have force multipliers. It's like the rainbow road in Mario Kart, right? Like when you edge out your competitor and you get onto that rainbow road, that's literally what this is, because you have all that context, all that business expertise and domain expertise. It's just about using it effectively.
Cool.
Last operating principle, and Mark mentioned this a few times, so did James, context is everything. The more context you provide, the better it will be. Do this once per project. You only do this once per project, and you can use it for every chat thread afterwards. And unlike humans, this was a mistake that I made when I first started using LLMs. I was thinking, like, there's no way they're going to remember all this. I can't say do this, then do this, and do this. AIs aren't like that. They don't need to remember. It's like 5, 10 pages of instructions as one prompt. They're going to remember that, right? But humans wouldn't. And so you just want to make sure that you put in a structure that's going to give you the output you're looking for. AI is going to remember what matters to you because you uploaded it. Like that's how powerful it is. It's like you're putting it into the thinking box and using it as a collaborator to actually get the output that you're looking for. So these are the 5 operating principles. The underpinning piece of this is data sources, which is like giving it the context, giving it the information, all that stuff. So those are the principles. So, but how do you actually start using this, right? This is all well and good. This sounds like theory. I would want some practicality, Raf. That's probably what I'm hearing Eric say right now. So what does that look like? So the very first thing is just get it context. And the easiest thing is, I'm a massive fan of working smart and not hard and leveraging what's already there. This is one-time work for repeatable leverage. Literally ask your AI what context it would need to give you all the support that you're looking for. Kind of to Mark's point about Socrates. So for example, for business, you're a business strategist. Give me all the questions that you answered to have complete context on my business so that you can give me the best possible advice on improving my growth, profitability, operations. You could even add marketing there, for example.
AI, what's it called? Like it's programmed to reinforce its ability to learn, right? And so when you ask it questions like that, it 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 will give itself its own context that it needs to go into the right direction. So that's such a killer prompt, Raf, that you just said, like going in and saying, you're the business expert, you're a strategic expert at XYZ type of business function. Ask me everything you need to know. Like, I'm repeating it because it's so important. Ask me everything you need to know about my context and specific situation so that we can nail the strategy. That is such a super way to get started if you don't quite have the domain knowledge or the context of where you want to go.
Guys, in the comments, let us know if this is hitting, right? Like I'm reading this going like, I've never asked my LLM this question before. I read it and I go, it seems so basic. Why didn't I actually think about asking it this question, right? I'm asking it all this stuff and I'm not asking it anything about, hey, how, like, what do you need to know about me so you can better serve me, basically, right? So tell us in the comments if you're enjoying this or not. Or you're going, man, you guys are literally preschool. I'm in high school at the moment, It would be good to see what level city we're at.
The best part about it, Eric, if you want this, you can just go to unemployable.com.au/AI and you can grab it and copy and paste it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Register your
I mean,
details there, guys.
What I've done is there's a resource that I'll share on screen towards the end, and I've got one for business strategists, for trading, for long-term investing as well. You can obviously make the changes that you want, but the same thing for a context question. You can just go ahead and pull this in. And the beautiful thing about this is you might, like, for example, I love marketing, and so my brain is like way more domain expertise in marketing, but I might not be thinking as much about finances or constraints. And so it prompts those questions from me. And the cool thing is that when you do this, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. It'll be like 50 questions. And that's okay because it's one-time work. If you actually fill this in, the output is going to be crazy. And so once you answer those questions, literally all those answers, save them in a doc or a PDF on your folder that's called AI Assets. I'm literally telling you how to organize this. Have a folder that says AI Assets, and inside that folder, you have 3 folders. You have business context, where this context file is going to live. And if you have multiple businesses like Eric, he's going to have multiple business contexts that he's going to upload into different projects or different chats. Data sources, so examples of newsletters that Perry has written and it's crushed it. So we can use that to create newsletters, for example. Any prompt libraries like the examples I'm going to share. And here's like a hack. If, for example, you've been using LLMs like Eric already has, and he asks this particular question on this business strategist, you can literally ask the AI, I want you to fill in these questions from what you already know about me, and only fill in the ones that you have 75% or greater level of certainty. Those that have less, just bold them so then you can just go through and edit it yourself. Again, working smart and not hard. You're already using the LLMs. You know what I mean?
And a couple of context examples here, right? So what I've seen some businesses start to do, a lot of businesses is done via Zoom calls and Google Meets, etc. And there's transcripts of all the conversations that you have in a business context. So one of the ways that you could do what Raf just explained with the folders is to record every single business conversation that you have. And the more conversations you have, the more context that is being produced, and you feed all of that context into the LLM. As it gets that context, it's able to better serve you and better help you rather than just going back to the original prompt. Hey, help me write. So, I'll ask the question to you guys. What do you think is going to give a better output? If I ask the LLM, write me a strategic business plan, or if the LLM's been reading my business transcripts for a month and then I ask it to create a plan based on the biggest bottlenecks we're currently facing, you know the answer of which one's going to give a better output. Another thing, just quickly, I don't want to sidetrack it too much, but something that I do is I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of earnings reports, earnings calls, present net cash flow models, all these kind of things, but I can only read a certain amount of them at the time. So what I'm starting to do is document my process for how I go about like looking into a company or an industry or a theme. And then once I've documented that process, I'm going to turn it into a prompt. And then from there, I'm going to turn that prompt into a 24/7 agent that is basically just online all day, reading transcripts and reading company reports and news updates and whatnot. So then it can collate all that information and feed me a summary of the companies I should be looking at now. Because if I'm doing it manually, I can only look at one at a time. And that's the bandwidth issue of me being able to be like a hedge fund. I can't do it on my own. But if I build these prompts and I ring fence all these contexts and put them in folders, etc., then I can actually get my Mac Mini out, create an agent that is doing it for me, and then I've got like 20 men, the capacity of 20 men working for me, and I'm like the CEO, the chief financial officer that's reading those reports and say, okay, click, I'm going to buy that stock, right? And so that's not even the extreme, but that's like, taking this a little bit further. If you nail these basics, they're the places that you can get to.
Yeah, and
But
to
you
that
got to
point,
get the basics right. If you're not storing the context basics, like Rafa just said, you won't. It's hard to get to that point. It's taken me like a year of trial and error to learn these lessons. We're trying to give you that instantly.
And the more specific it is to your business, the less chance of hallucination. So it comes back to that more accurate answer. So, and that's like, and then we won't talk about now like smaller language or local language models, which is another a side quest as well. And that's what we're looking at doing. Just as again, not sidetrack it for unemployable property is we're going to create a very information dense specifically around what we're doing over here. So when our members or consumers go in there, it's specifically to that, and they're not going to get some waffle that just goes and takes them on a tangent.
Exactly. I mean, this is, we've had like personalized medicine where now it's not like general medicine for everyone. We can get like personal medicine specifically based on your bloods, based on your health. It's the same thing with AI. We're getting personalized AI, but if you give it the right context, the result and the output is like vastly different from just a one sentence prompt or a one sentence thinking. Just putting this together is one-time work. Like the system that Mark just shared, he just needs to do that once, and now it's constantly pulling all that stuff. It's just actually knowing what's important and how to actually use this. And that's kind of what I want to like highlight. Eric was saying on a call yesterday, he's like, I wish I could just hire someone to just follow me in the day to show me where I can use this stuff. And I thought, I'm here in Dubai. Eric's in Goldie. So like, how could I actually help him? So I've got a series of questions that you guys can use. And we're going to do a live demonstration with Eric towards the end of this, where we're going to unlock just a couple of things that he could immediately use this for. And to give you a bit of context, like these are just some of the ways I'm using AI right now. Like I have a sales call analyzer. I'm doing a video script analyzer. I'm doing VSL generators, call action items, newsletter generator, AI avatar generator, where I'm actually creating AI avatars, image generator, obviously, email sequences, architecting offers, landing page copy, all of this stuff, because they each have their own project and context and examples. They don't have to be my own. If I like a landing page, I can literally screenshot that, and that is a reference point, a data source that I'm putting in a particular project. And so if you're unsure where to start, you could start with some of these if it makes sense for you, because these are very low-hanging fruit that you probably have an AI on all your sales calls or all your marketing calls or your business strategy calls, Yeah.
Can I just give a quick one? Because this is maybe one of the more I'll call it caveman approaches of the way I'm using it. But the one thing that I use my LLM for each and every day is two things I use it for each and every day. One is to track my macros. So every time I eat something, I take a photo of it. I put it in and I say, okay, how much protein have I had? How much carbs have I had? How much fat have I had? Whatever. And I got my targets. But then I take it a step further. At the end of each week, I'll send it photos of me without a shirt on, and I'll say, this is like where I'm at. Here's my weight. Here's my body fat percentage according to my scale. Then it'll give me feedback, whatever. But then I'll give it the objective. This is what I want to look like by June 3rd. And it'll then modify my training regime to either give me a little bit more on the delts or to widen my lats or to whatever. I'm constantly giving it context, live and updated context. And so each and every day I train 4 to 5 times a week. Each day, first thing I do when I get to the gym, I say, what do we work? I've got like a set protocol, 7-day protocol, but it changes the exercises of the sets and the reps based on how I'm going versus my objective, right? Like that's a real simple way that everyone would be able to relate to in using the model.
And here I am paying a personal trainer, hey?
No, it's like it's not needed. Like, sorry to all the personal trainers out there. I had like 3 or 4 of them hit me up, said they work with me for free because they know I'm on the pod and stuff. But it's just like, yeah, but that's time that I have to sit with them and inconvenience. Whereas I can just click it into my model and off I go. You know what I mean? Like, so
So good.
It's so good, mate. I mean, that's so smart. I mean, just that alone, I know there's so many apps that people pay for and I've paid for in the past that do literally what you just shared, but you've just done it automatically and on like a $20 subscription, right? You could actually probably do it on a free ChatGPT, honestly, like
for
free of all
sure,
these projects. Yeah,
easily.
bang on.
And all those calorie apps, they're a nightmare. Like, they actually don't work. They get the calories. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
All right, this is good,
powerful.
right?
So
This is good information. Very
I'm
good.
glad, man. I mean, the goal here is that now that you have the context, you understand like how to structure it. I want to just open your minds on like how can you figure out where it works for you. The whole point is we're in like personalized support, personalized coaching, personalized strategists. So like how do you figure out what makes sense for you and your business? So these are just 8 questions to ask yourself for AI leverage. If you're listening to this right now, you can pause it, write some notes, even just voice note it out to yourself. I use Whisper, for example, which is just like listening to my voice and then just writes it out. And it's like this AI tool. It's super cheap, and I basically write my emails by talking to it, which is great. So first question I want you to ask yourself, and Eric, as I'm asking these, because I'm gonna do this live with you in a second, I want you to start thinking about this. What do you do every week, no matter what? So just have a think of those, okay? Um, what do you procrastinate on, even though you know it's important? For example, for me, it's just like getting my inbox down. I can never get to 0, but at least like only 10 or 15 emails left, you know? Just like I always
Preach, yeah,
procrastinate on
that's
that,
nice.
even though they're important. I hate those emails, right? So I procrastinate on that like crazy. So that's an example of where I've been able to use AI to leverage a lot. Um, what do you repeat with minor changes? So this could be like a proposal that you might be sending out, or some sort of presentation that you're creating, or some sort of like emails or messages, or even like setting up calendar invites for this pod with like notes on what we're actually doing. The minor changes are like what we're actually going to be talking about for this pod. That's an example. Where do you think, but mostly just to get out words? So if you're on a call for business strategy, that's where you think just to get your words out. Because sometimes when you talk about it, you're thinking through talking. That is a data source that you can just use and plug into things. It could be when you're organizing your day with your significant other or your kids. It's like, okay, what's the plan for this week? You're thinking, you're talking just to think out loud. You can capture that and then put that into your AI. So it doesn't have to be complicated. What information do you consume that you don't really process? So these are YouTube videos. These are like articles. These are even audiobooks. These are things that you consume, but you don't fully process. You can actually get that information out and start using it. A few others. What decisions do you make repeatedly using similar information? So I'll give you a personal example. I have a lot of members in the uptake where they're asking for how does this message work when I'm working with affiliates? What does this affiliate offer look like? I'm creating custom gems for each of these processes. So instead of my thinking happening repeatedly, I literally just give them access to my custom GPT or custom gem, and they ask it that because it's already built in with my thinking. And now I'm outside the process because I've already uploaded it. So these are examples. A couple others. What knowledge lives only in your head? And then finally, like where do small improvements would clearly equal more money or time? So it's just like reading charts, okay, if this lead magnet had a click-through rate of 5% instead of 3%, would it equal more time or more money for you? Yeah, these are examples of where you can actually use your AI inside of your own business. So with that being said, I want to start implementing this with you, May. Um, as you're going through that questions, are there any 1 or 2 things that come to mind that you're doing inside of your business or your day-to-day life right now?
I mean, a big thing is prepping for podcasts as an example, right? For interview style podcasts, when you have random guests, some of them will be similar topics, some of them will
Mhm.
be totally different.
Okay, so we have different topics, but is the structure of the podcast or an interview style pretty similar? Like the
Yeah,
intro?
yeah, yeah, pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an intro. There's a certain amount of questions, obviously, that need to get answered, and then there's a close of it at the end.
Brilliant. So if I were you, this is what I would do. I would literally create a data source of examples of podcasts that you've done before that went really well from an interviewer and interviewee perspective. I would add that. And then I would create a structure of like, okay, I'm creating a podcast with an interview of an industry expert, which is generally the case. I want to make sure I have an intro. I have questions that talk about their personal story and where they got to this point, and ask questions that bring out some sort of emotion from the interviewee so that it hits with the viewers. And I want to structure all these questions to bring aha moments to anyone who's watching, so it's as valuable as possible. Just that very simple instruction to create a very specific prompt will give you outputs way better, right? Just like that alone, if you just create a project based on that, that's like level like 0.5. Just doing that alone will make sure your preparation is going to be like so much quicker. And it's like one-time work to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there something that like is ticky-tacky that you hate doing, but you know you need to do in your day-to-day life that's like super annoying?
Can I just ask a question before you get there? And I just to clarify, really be crystal clear for all users out there. You said grab the 5 podcasts that went off and really well. Now, with the language learning model we're talking about, predominantly it's going to be GPT for most. Do you now need to go and transcribe them and upload the transcripts, or can it pull the data straight from YouTube videos? So just to get really clear on how this project is going to absorb that information and turn it into the brain.
To avoid hallucination, I would take the transcript directly and post it in.
Cool.
That's
Because that's a
100%.
key point.
Yeah. And you don't even need to transcribe it. You could literally go, every YouTube video has transcripts already. You just need to go into the description, scroll down to the bottom, click show transcript, copy paste. You could do it with this pod, copy paste it, and literally put that into a project as like a YouTube analyzer and say, I want to get the key insights for this that I can practically implement to my business context and use case. And it's going to literally show you that.
And a little bit of an advanced step, don't want to lose people, but an advanced step is really you should have a predetermined prompt built to analyze all the podcasts. So, for example, I analyze a lot of macro podcasts, and there's certain parts that I'll like double click on and say, oh, that was like that person said that one thing, and that's like really key and really vital. But there could be other things that that I miss. So I've got I've given it the hedge fund manager frame. So taking this information, what are the second and third order effects and how can I make money from it? And so I've got this prompt that every time I put it over a transcript, I'm looking for specific things that other people might not be seeing, et cetera, et cetera. So again, it's doing the work once, having that prompt, and then being able to use that prompt over and over again. And there's a shortcut. You don't have to kind of come up with the prompt on your own. And Raphael will probably give you some examples, but you can just go into Grok and you can say, find me an X post that is a fantastic prompt for XYZ. And someone will already have created that XYZ prompt that you need, and you can just slightly change it for what you need it for. But you don't have to reinvent it from scratch necessarily.
Yeah, bang on. And I think the very last thing from like a shareability perspective, Eric, is like, these are just some quick examples from those questions, but I want you to spend like the highest ROI hour of this week would be literally time blocking it out and going through those questions and literally filling those out, putting those exact questions into your chat GPT because you're using it already. Be like, these are the questions I want to answer from what you
As a
know
new
about
project.
me.
As a new project.
Yeah, as a new project. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is like, you could literally create a project that's called an AI advisor because
Yep.
this can help you get more context. And you can ask,
Yep.
like, block out 1 hour of your time. You could answer these questions manually yourself by all means, but you can also put it into your AI or your LLM, whichever you're using, and be like, answer these questions based on what you know. For me, anything that has less than 75% or 50% of certainty, just bold it so that I can then go and make those edits. And then that will elucidate to you what are the things that I'm consistently using this for that I could like create a more leveraged process.
Yeah.
And-
Like,
and
just
to-
the more I listen to this stuff, the more efficiency, so much efficiency that can be had. Just and again, we're going from 0 to 1. This is
and not only that, for 10 extra points, is that you've got a VA. You can extract most of the information from your VA. She's on your shoulder pretty much in work hours. So I mean, you can fast track that as well.
correct.
Bang on.
Again,
What you do-
it's just it's a different way of thinking, right? Like this whole AI really has fallen on our lap not too long ago, right? And it's like, oh, this is cool. And again, everyone's using it as a Google, basically, but this is like taking it again to the next level, which is 0 to 1. So imagine 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 5 to 10 as an example, where you could be like Raph was talking. about a mate of his, we won't dig too deep into that story, but basically using AI so heavily in his business, and this is automated and that's automated, and he's turning over X amount of millions a month. And Mark, James, and I were just like, what do you like? Seriously? Like our ears just perked, and I'm just like, and he's like, got no employees, and I'm like, how? Like I just like, and this is what I mean. Like I look at that and I go, we all have the same time and hours in the day, except some of us are using it dinosaur style, and some of us are using it like this guy.
Yeah. And that guy's like on a completely different level. Like I'm trying to get to where he's at because, like we're all just learning these pieces. I just want to share it with you so you guys have the same, like all this part is about being unemployable. Part of being unemployable is using the tools that are at our disposal so that we can get to like that lifestyle as quick as humanly possible. And AI is one of those levers that we can use. We can stand in fear against it or like rail against it or lean into it to leverage our own business and our own, like whatever our goals are in our life. So what I did was I created this resource sheet that you can get at the end of this because I wanted it to be as plug and play, as simple as possible for you to use immediately. So I have that exact prompt on creating context files. I've got for trading systems, literally the prompt you can use for long-term investing. Now, for example, your use case might not be in here. So you can literally say, hey, here's a template for long-term investing. I want it to be for my fitness coach. So recreate this prompt for a fitness coach. And then you copy that and then paste it into a new chat. So that's really a really easy and quick way that you can go ahead and use this. And I also use that kind of like quick hack prompt that I said, bold it if your confidence is below 50% or 70%. I've also gone ahead and created a bunch of roles. If you're not sure what kind of roles you can use, this is not, it can do anything, but this is just like quick list of roles that you can use when you're creating different projects. And I'll share with you a universal blueprint, but what I wanted to do is kind of peel the curtain back a little bit and share a specific prompt that I'm using inside my business for TikTok, because that's what I do. And so I want to extract the TikTok style of any piece of content to help create new scripts for the creators that I'm working with. And literally, this is the prompt, and it goes for 6 pages. This is one prompt, but essentially, it's going to output for me in multiple steps, whether this is top of funnel, bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, what the structure and flow is, the tone, the narrative devices, the sentence, the delivery, the formatting, all that stuff, and then output it in a reusable TikTok script template that I can use for all the creators or any content that Graham, my co-founder, is using. It's all in one go, and then with one prompt, I have all this. And so this is kind of a more detailed prompt that obviously it's in the resource. You can go ahead and use this, but let's say you're not in the TikTok space. You might be in the trading space or in the property space, like James. I've put together a universal prompt that you can just go ahead and use. Like literally just swap out the things that make the most sense. And if you want to be super smart, you can copy this. Hey, this is a universal prompt template. I want it for this particular use case. And it can fill out the prompt for you. And then you can then use that in a new project. To your point, it's a jump off point. Like if you're not sure where to start, if you're at 0 or you're 0.5 or even at 1, just adding these things into your process is just going to make sure your leverage is so much stronger. And so that's why we've put this together, because we want you guys to win. This isn't something like, oh, we're just pontificating about how we're using AI. This is literally step-by-step on how we're using it at 0 to 1. Now, there's a bunch of other stuffs like AI avatar and agent stuff that we'll go through in the future. But if you don't have the foundation set, none of that stuff actually matters. So if you've been sitting on the sidelines and you've been thinking, hey, how does any of this stuff work? How can I actually start using it? I see all these crazy videos about OpenClaw or like Agent Zero or like this next new model and all this stuff. Like, where do I actually start? Because it is overwhelming. All that is underpinned by the stuff that we just shared in this pod right now. And it's a workshop style. It's super practical, different to what we've been doing. But we just want to give that to you in your brain so that you guys can use it in your business and life.
Yeah, you got to remember, guys, like there's levels to every game, right? And you look at Raf, he's on a different level than I am when it comes to AI. So is Mark. And you can't compare your first inning to someone's ninth inning, but like who cares about OpenClaw at the moment, right? If you don't even know how to use your chat GPT regularly right now, right? You're going to go from 0 to 10. And the reality is you got very smart people out there going, hey, this is quite difficult to set up. This isn't easy, right? And if you can't even use chat GPT easily, what chances do you have of OpenClaw? So for us, we wanted to kind of turn it on its head, and we will do an OpenClaw breakdown with obviously Raf and Mark, but we thought it would be a lot better now to kind of peel the layers of the onion back and go, okay, let's go kind of back to basics. Like I've learned a shit ton just in regards to how you're using it in your business, right? And some of the work now that I need to do. But the key is it's all work, right? We're all busy. We all got 50 tasks that need to be done yesterday that are still on our task list today. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're going to give me 50 questions that I got to now go answer. But the key is you got to actually put the time block in your calendar and making sure that you're actually working on these things, because this is like what Raf said. It might be a lot of work up front. It might be 10 hours of work up front, but it's going to save you 100 hours, in weeks and in months to come. And that's what I love about it, is that compounding factor.
I think the old analogy in anything is sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, and going down, and even if you're up an hour extra early every morning, going through this document, playing around with it before you drop the kids at school, go to work, do whatever, but investing an hour a day for a week, I think you pretty much have your arms right around what Raf just covered right now.
Agree.
Yeah.
And again, guys, if you guys want this information that Raf has created, and those prompts and the personal prompt that he's actually using in his business, go to www.unemployable.com.au/AI, register your details, and you'll get that sent to you. And then when we do any future ones, we'll probably just use that same link and you guys can get this this information. But I think, I mean, for Mark, obviously, when you look at the level that Mark's at using AI, he's doing a lot of this already. But then here I am talking to personal trainers, and as good as they are, and some of them are mates and acquaintances, and then all of a sudden Mark's just like, I'm just taking photos and talking to it, and it's giving me the information. Like, what should I like? As soon as you said that, oh, I got to work on my delts a bit more. It's like I think back of Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie when he's like, oh, it's like sculpting, you need more shoulder, you just put here, kind of thing. That's basically what ChatGPT is actually telling you, like your traps are too small, go work on them based on the size of your delts or the size of your buys or whatnot, and it is literally incredible that people don't know this. That's the thing. People aren't using it at that scale.
It's certainly a sector that, you've got the fitness influencers of the world. I think they'll get out pretty rapidly, very shortly.
Maybe not, right? Like, because people still yearn for that human to human contact, right? So I think like, maybe not. Maybe there'll be more fitness influencers out there because there'll be better fitness influencers out there rather than influencers that were using outdated and old strategies. Maybe there's a new wave of fitness influencers that are using AI to be better fitness influencers, and they're meshing the physics and the science with their personal personalities. So maybe all these people that never would have thought of being and now are going to be it. So it's like radiology. You would have thought AI would get rid of radiologists, but now there's more radiologists popping up because we have better tools to be able to read the results. And so you don't know. Sometimes it's going to work in the opposite, right? Like I tend to think in most industries, if people are using the tools properly, then they'll be better at their craft and there'll be more demand for their services rather than less. But the one thing that I want to say, Eric, is like with the easy to understand is your body, right? But it's an ongoing spectrum. It's never like a steady state. You never get to like a steady state of knowledge. It's always ongoing and never-ending improvement, either with your body or your prompt. I've got one prompt that I'm working on that I showed you guys yesterday. It's like 20 pages long, and all it does is analyze 4 charts: a daily chart, a 6-hour chart, a monthly chart, and a weekly chart of a stock. And I'm doing this manually at the moment, but this prompt is 20 pages to analyze buy zones, sell zones, trim zones, generational buying opportunity zones. But it took me a week and a half to get the prompt right, based on knowledge and knowing what I wanted on the other side, because sometimes it hallucinates, or sometimes each time the chart updates, it gives you like it moves the goalpost, like I was explaining to you guys. So you always want to be like using the jump off point that Rafi gave you, and then building on those prompts over time, because no one can take those away from you. They become your moat, your context, and your specific or industry specific or your body specific or whatever it is. Knowledge becomes your moat. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that I want to leave people with.
Yeah, honestly, guys, I really enjoyed this session, probably because I'm on the other side of it as a listener rather than, I felt like I was, literally a listener listening to Raf explain all of this about AI, and I honestly learned a lot. I hope that you guys learn just as much. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, there's so much more to learn here, and we're not going to turn this channel into a full AI channel, so don't stress. But we think that this is important every once in a while to throw some of these in the mix, or else you'll be like my father-in-law, banging your head against the back of the of the front seat, wondering how the hell I just talked to Siri to text message someone. Because there's levels, right? You can't compare his first inning to my ninth inning using Siri chat. So guys, if you like this, let us know in the comments if you like this style of content. And again, if you're on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, make sure you go to YouTube so you can actually see the slide deck that Raf was sharing. And again, if you want any of this information, go to www.unemployable.com.au/AI. And I just want to leave two more things. On March 7th and March 8th, we have our Unemployable property event called Find, Fund, Develop. We are now 90% sold in tickets, so we will be selling out very, very shortly. I don't want to, you guys to be one of the ones that said, "Oh, but what about me?" Oh, we will be rejecting people, unfortunately. So if you don't want that to be you, make sure you register www.unemployable.com.au/event. That's March 7th, 8th here in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. Looking forward to it. We've been doing a lot of work that we could probably use a lot of chat GPT and Raf's experience to reduce the amount of work by 50% on the next one. And go ahead, James.
There's one thing to add to this. You guys are going to be listening to this on a Friday. If you go back to Tuesday's pod, I believe it's Malcolm Matuzik, who just dropped, and he will be basically sprinkling the fairy dust about what's going to be happening in that event. And we mentioned it last week, and that the bet's on with Malcolm Matuzik, one of Australia's leading property analysts and demographers, or patterns anyway, is that if he was given $10 million landed in his lap, where would he deploy it and why? And I think that's going to be a bomb that's going to get dropped at the March 7th and 8th event. 7th and 8th event. I did it again. You get the point.
No, you're right. That's going to be a good one. And as well, we got a few things happening, guys. Mark and I have been working on a business in the background. We've got a name, but I don't think we're going to advertise it on this pod yet. Let's keep it. I like the suspense. Helping people to invest in overseas property. We have a very special meeting actually on Thursday with a special someone that we're going to be working with, which is going to be our first client on this business, which is exciting. But if you guys, again, want to know more information on that, we don't have a landing page or anything, but go to www.
We're going to have
We're
going to have a landing page. So if you want, because I'm doing a little bit of an episode on the need potentially for this kind of thing, this kind of diversity. And I'm going to have the landing page set up in time. So if you want me to drop it, we can drop it.
Drop it. Yeah, drop it.
All right. It'll be blackbookoffshore.com. So it'll just be a simple, basic landing page. You just jump onto blackbookoffshore.com and you'll be able to, actually, I don't know if it's going to be up by Friday, which is when we'll be dropping this pod.
You snooze, you lose.
Anyway,
we'll have to try and get it out.
Try and work it out, but that's what we've been working on in the background as well, guys. So very, very exciting stuff. This is why we need to implement AI in our lives even more, because guys like us keep getting busier and busier with the more opportunities that land on our laps, and we can't help ourselves. So if that's you guys as well, hope you guys enjoy this one. Get AI implemented. Make sure you structure it properly. Mark?
Can I just give one more shameless plug?
Yeah, of course.
So today I just dropped, we're filming this on Tuesday, and we've been speaking about Bitcoin a lot on this on this pod. And so we haven't spoken about it this week or last week. So on Money Markets and Mayhem, so just at Money Markets and Mayhem on YouTube, I dropped the pod all about Bitcoin. So it went for an hour and a half, and we share like a bunch of charts on price zones, probabilities of getting to those zones, and strategy on how to be buying this dip. So if you are one of our listeners that is interested in Bitcoin, you want an update on where I think that's at, jump on and have a look at that pod.
I think that in the conclusion of this podcast pretty much catered for everyone in our audience. So I'd say we're not delivering.
Exciting stuff, guys. Appreciate it. Let us know in the comments if you like it. What do you like? What don't you like? And again, go to www.unemployable.com.au/AI, get that information, and hopefully it helps you guys in your business. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.